This is K-Rockcast, the podcast where music and perspectives collide.
I'm Anne, a music lover who's the ultimate fan.
And I'm Kelly, a professional musician. Join us as we dive into the world of the Rose and other Korean and Asian rock bands.
Sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we'll wildly disagree, but what's guaranteed is a passionate, hilarious, and unfiltered conversation about the music that unites us and the bands that inspire us.
On today's show,
Yes. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat things and think that everything, they have, what, rainbows coming out their asses or something, like they poop
hey,
rainbows or whatever.
even Beethoven had bad days.
Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 21, Into the World Part 2. Excited, Kelly, to keep digging into this really, really deep album. I think I didn't really realize, Kelly, until we started like digging into these songs, just honestly how deep this album is and what an emotional kind of rich discussion I think it's gonna bring out in this episode and did in our part one. All right, listeners, let's jump into our hot takes. We've been kind of going through the fan Q&As when we see those uploaded on YouTube. So thank you to any of the fans that put up the Luxembourg. There were some fun things that we learned, Kelly, from that one. I liked this question. If you could release an old song in another genre, what would it have been? I thought that was a great question. The guy struggled a little bit to really kind of answer it, unfortunately, but I thought it was interesting. Usung said what we've actually said on the
Yeah,
podcast, re-record their whole old catalog as an acoustic album,
yeah,
which they totally need,
yeah.
to
And it's
do. And he
and it's the only way they can actually re-release any of those tracks by re-recording them anyway.
Yeah, and he said that the World album actually almost became a fully acoustic album. Dojun was kind of the only one that had a real answer to this, and he said maybe Cosmo would be an interesting song as a slow tempo instead of that kind of EDM drive of a
It would
tempo. I
be
thought that was kind of interesting.
It would be lovely, and it'd work really well, actually.
Yeah.
The melody on a piano would work beautifully slowed down by you wouldn't need to do it by half, but if you did it by a third, yeah, that'd sound lovely. It really would.
I know. Of course, Dojun. I feel like he would be the best person to probably answer that question. And then I love that, like, out of nowhere, Clara gave an answer. I love that. She said, "What about She's in the Rain as EDM?"
I
Which,
know, I
like,
love that.
hell yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Like, She's in the Rain. Like, I was like, go Clara. That would have been me. If I was in that job, I probably would be the same thing, like going ahead, like answering shit, be like, "What are you doing, Anne?" Like, "I'm so sorry." Go ahead. Go ahead. Like, shit was funny. And then I liked this because there was someone who asked about the lack of Korean lyrics and would they write again in Korean? And I feel like this was interesting because you and I have been talking about this in multiple episodes. I think I went on a rant in one
Mhm.
previous episode because I feel like they keep marketing to a Korean listening audience, but in English. And I think there's such a disconnect in that.
Mm.
And so I thought this was interesting. Sammy said that and he's said this before in interviews, like they don't purposely go in their writing saying, we are going to write a Korean song or we are going to write an English song. They go off of how they feel. And then Dojun said, because when they go through like writing the melody, they sing in English gibberish.
Mm.
I think it's lending themselves more to then writing it in English. The fans they kind of asked the fans there, like, well, what would you prefer? And a lot of them said at first Korean, to
Yeah.
which I thought this was kind of an interesting like comeback. He said, "Oh, how many of you actually speak Korean?" To where no one speaks Korean. I liked what he said. So he said, well, if you don't speak Korean, when our songs are in Korean, and he gave an example of the definition of ugly is, you can never fully understand what we're saying and
Yeah,
what we
exactly.
mean. the meaning we're trying to convey, regardless of translations that are out there. And they recognize that their audience is broad language, even if it isn't your first language.
Mm,
Most people across the world speak English, and they have
yeah.
such an international fan base, which I get. Like, I totally get that. But it was interesting. It actually hadn't occurred to them. Like, they were a little bit surprised, and then they had to think. They were like, "Well, when was the last time we had Korean lyrics?" And kind of realized it has been since the Heal
Yeah.
album, which we've said.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are your thoughts on kind of that response?
No, I completely agree with them, to be honest. And it's one of the things that's always kind of amazed me, that when people sort of ask for it in Korean, because you do lose the meaning of it. I mean, in any language, if it's not your first language and you're relying
Mhm.
on translation tools, you're never going to get the true meaning of it. You're never going to
Mhm.
get the ultimate definition of. And I mean, Korean, like English, has its own idioms, and you can occasionally pick up on, because obviously you speak decent Korean, I speak poorly passive Korean. That's probably the way of describing it. Um, but even I can pick up on the idioms that don't translate within their music.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and then you've got countries who don't even do idioms and things like that, and they don't
Mhm.
have that knowledge of that form of language. So I mean,
Mhm.
it's lost on both aspects, to be perfectly honest.
I get what he's saying, but I think it almost, like, reinforces the argument I was making of, like, and maybe I'm, again, completely off base and they are not trying to win over a Korean audience, but it even more shows if you are going to win over a Korean audience, you wouldn't do it in English, because for the same reasons he just shared,
Yeah,
a Korean
exactly.
audience doesn't fully understand your English either.
No,
And
exactly.
while I think the English speaking audience, I'll say, like, for myself, I would love to hear Korean lyrics again. I love, even if I'm not understanding initially the full depth and meaning of their song, I love the way it sounds to my ear when they're singing in that language. And I
Mhm,
think a lot of fans who don't speak Korean probably feel that way. What makes them K-rock? What makes them, this K-pop? Like, it goes into some of that identity piece where you and I've said they need to stop leaning into that and just be a
mm.
rock band.
Well, they're alt pop at the moment, as we've discussed.
You said you've seen on, like, publications or PR things,
No,
they're
but I
calling
mean, it's
themselves
on,
alt rock
yeah,
now.
stuff like on Spotify and all of those type of things. The genre classification is alt pop.
Alt pop, that's right. Alt
Yeah.
pop.
And to be perfectly
Yeah.
honest, alt pop is basically soft rock. They just don't want to say that they're soft rock. That's basically what
I
it is.
think of soft rock. You know what I think of? Like, this is such an American thing, but it's like we have this streaming radio station, Sirius XM. I don't know if that's around the world or if that's only a US based thing, but there's this thing called yacht rock, which is like soft
Yes.
rock from the 80s. So it's
Yes.
like the Rose Yacht
So
Rock.
you've got things like Hall and Oates and all of that type of stuff.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
there you
yes.
go.
Are
All
they
the stuff
like
my dad used to play in the car.
yes, because these are old because these are the guys are like old 60-year-old men at heart. Is that like
Yeah,
because like
yeah, that's basically
oh
it.
my
Yeah.
god, that's so funny. The
Yeah,
Rose now yacht rock.
yeah, they've just rebranded themselves, so they're dad rock basically.
Dad rock. Oh my god, yes. Maybe that needs to be the next phase of their branding. Dad rock. Oh
Oh,
my
that's mean. That's mean. It's true,
that's
but it's mean.
funny. Okay, because we know the Rose is listening on the tour bus. Write that down. Write that down.
You are now dad
Brilliant
rock.
idea. We're gonna see it come out in the next press release, Kelly. And we know we said, remember this, Kelly? With this conversation, we're gonna look now. We think they're secretly listening, but they don't want to tell us they're listening. So we're gonna look for secret little things that give us a hint that they listen to an episode.
Oh,
So we're gonna see a little drip of dad rock somewhere, or Sammy's gonna say it in a ment on this tour. He's gonna mention dad rock, and that'll be our sign to us
oh, is that
that
what it
he
is?
listens.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Yeah,
That's
okay.
the code word, Sammy. The code word is dad rock.
Love how it's your code word. I was starting to think for a second you were going to say it was your safety word.
Sus content. Stop it, Kelly. Don't get me down the sus content route.
Hey, everybody
No,
needs
get with him.
a safety word. Everybody needs one.
Which, by the way, I love that the poll I put out on Instagram, I came out as the winner in the most
Yeah, but
the one who has the most sus content.
well, I mean, that goes without saying, darling. I am British after all. You know, we are far more reserved, and when we do come out with things, we tend to say them in a way that you Americans don't seem to pick up on until about 3 years later, and then you go, "Oh shit, what did she say?"
Laughing at what you said in the last would you rather where you were like, why did you say that so pervy?
It was pervy. It
It
was
was. I
pervy.
listened to myself. I was like, Anne, what are you doing? Stop it. You're weird.
It literally sounded. I was half expecting it to be like the old man pervy thing, where you sort of like blow on your hands and then rub on your thighs and go, "Oh."
I was like, hi, Judy. I don't even know how I did it. I can't even replicate it, but
no,
oh my
please
God.
stop.
Okay.
No, please stop now. Stop now.
All right. Back to there I go.
Do we need a safety word between the two of us?
You're weird. That's the safety word when you tell me you're weird. It means
you're
stop.
weird. It's not avocado or anything like that. You're weird.
Okay, so back to the Luxembourg Q&A. This was a really fun question. This next one, Back Rose asked if they were a lyric from one of their songs, what would they be? I thought that was a really creative question. What do you think Sammy answered?
Yeah, but the answers weren't creative, were they?
This is the problem with the Rose. Sometimes fans come with really great questions and the guys just struggle to answer. Like they're kind of boring. Like,
I mean,
don't know.
you can literally
answers.
hear the cogs going.
I know.
And at some
But
point
anyway,
it gets stuck. Yeah.
what do you think Sammy would answer?
Well, I know what he answered with because I actually saw the clip. Yeah, so his nibs decided back to me and Dojon's line of just to fuck it all up when I see you tonight.
I feel like that's like very core. It's like
Yeah.
Like a core song right there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So that was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dojin was core to me because he picked tomorrow's line, tomorrow will be okay, don't worry too much. And I feel like he's a very positive person.
Yes, I like that. No, that's very cool for him as well, I think. Yeah. I agree with that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Takeums was cute. He said it's not a line in the song, but he loves when they perform Cosmo that Sammy does that ad lib where he says, "We are the center of the universe." He just loves that line and it always makes him feel so good.
Can you remember He-Man? It reminds me of He-Man.
He-Man.
Can you not remember that? Or is this just because I've got a brother?
I remember my brother watching He-Man, but I don't necessarily remember much of it.
No, there is
Did
many
he
a
say
time
that?
is it Masters of the Universe?
Oh, Masters of the Universe.
There you
I
go.
think that is what He-Man says.
Yeah, and that's always what goes through my head every time he does it, and I sort of have a wee wry smile to myself.
So should I be imagining Sammy in a loincloth?
Not in a loincloth. Do not say in a loincloth. Dear God. No. Oh no, I need bleach for my eyes.
Sammy in a loincloth with a large sword.
I'm slightly worried that it's Sammy in a loincloth with a broadsword.
Oh, you need to engage the safe word.
You're weird.
On a bad route.
Avocado.
Oh God, my mind is spinning right now. I need to stop. Moving on.
Swiftly moving on.
Oh Lord. The future reels that are going to come out now. Based on He-Man. Oh,
I just don't need that in my life. Oh dear. Oh god.
Hajime said sour. My heart is sour without you. To which Dojun said something strange. He's like, "Oh yeah, Dylan is sour without like little like things." I don't know what he meant by that, but that was like weird. And then I thought this was funny. The another fan asked if they could play a different instrument, what would it be? And do you remember we had this conversation once in an episode about like switching instruments? Do you remember that?
I am going to say this now. Avocado.
What? Why is he letting me go down this route?
We
I
know
totally.
we know what instrument Sammy thinks he was put on this earth to play.
Why does he think he can play drums and he's horrible at it?
I don't
We, I mean, we've like made fun of him about that in multiple episodes as well as
know.
in some reels. I think I called him out in like our zombie apocalypse episode. Remember where it's like,
Yeah.
uh,
Oh dear.
I thought that
Yeah.
was funny. Dojin would play bass, Hajin would do guitar, and then Taehyung was like, "Well, anything except bass because Taehyung can kind of do it all, actually."
Well, yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah.
then Hajun coming with the one-liner said, "You could sing and play a triangle."
Yeah, it
That's like
is. Yeah.
Discord era inside joke, isn't it? It's like, "Go Hajuni. I love your humor." So, we haven't done, Kelly, an artist recommendation in a little bit, and you've got 2 for us today. So, introduce us to our first artist.
So the first artist is a group that we're going to look at, and these were possibly my gateway into Korean rock, if I remember correctly. I think they were. So this is FT Islands. And it's Five Treasure Island. That's what it actually stands for. They debuted in 2007. And by 2011, they were literally the forefront of Korean pop rock. So the band currently consists of the main vocalist Lee Hong-yi, bassist Lee Jae-jin, drummer Min Hwan, and the guitarist Oh Won Bin left the band in 2019 and was replaced by Song Seung-yeon. And the former leader, Choi Jong-hoon, left the band and retired from the entertainment industry in 2019. So the replacement guitarist then left the group in the same year in 2019 to pursue an acting career. So at the moment, they're basically a three-piece. And
Mm.
you would have seen Hongi recently in a interview with Sammy where they sat getting progressively more drunk, I think is the nice way of describing it, or progressively more pink. I'm not 100% sure which it is, whether it was drunk or pink. As the bottle
Yeah,
went down, the colour raised anyway.
yeah,
So these guys are literally all about the ballads and arena sing-alongs. That's the only way of describing them. But their music's actually really riff-heavy pop. So there's lots and lots of guitar work. They are loved
mm,
in Korea and in Japan, and they're slowly starting to break out. They have got a European and American fan base, but it's
mm,
small. They can't
yeah,
do what the guys do and literally go out and play arenas. I mean, that's their dream. That's what they want to do. Um, but yeah, it's interesting to see the fact that they've built this huge following at home and everything else over the years, and now they're trying to expand outwards, whereas the guys are trying to come inwards. Honestly,
yeah,
it bewilders me. It really does bewilder me. But if you get a chance, just have a listen to them. They're fantastic. I mean, any of their albums, there are pearls on every single one. Definitely worth a
yeah.
listen.
I started I started listening to them again after Usung was on the interview with Hongyi, and I really like their music, so I need to be exploring their discography more.
It quite sort of comparably with the Rose and Day
Mm,
Six and CM Blue and all of those. So if that's what you're into, definitely worth a listen. Right, so I'm now going to drop over to Japan, and we're going to have a look at a band called Asterism. And These were formed in 2014, and they've got a really weird, interesting story. So, if I just give you a rough idea of the type of thing they do, we're talking virtuoso rock metal here. So, if anybody is into virtuoso guitar work or anything like that, so if you think along the lines of Polyphia, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, we're in this territory. Marty Friedman, all of those type of guitarists. We are talking top notch. But it's not just the guitarist that is top notch, the entire band is. So the band was formed in a really unusual way, and they were put together by Yamaha executives following a competition in Japan. And two brothers arrived at the actual competition, and that is Mayu and Milo, and they are a drum and bass artist, and that's kind of how they performed together at the competition. And while they were at the competition, they also met a virtuoso guitarist. And this is the only way I can describe her. Notice I said her.
Ooh, that's
And her name
interesting.
is Hal Cal. And she is, oh my God, amazing. She can literally stand up with the best of the men that are out there. Her fretwork on the guitar is unreal. She is
Wow.
magnificent. They're just brilliant. So anyway, so the Yamaha executives got them together at this competition, stuck them together, and they initially worked under the name of Halcal as the first name, and then this was like went, yeah, but we sort of just sound like we're backing her as a virtuoso guitarist, and they really wanted to work as a three piece because they worked really well together. So in the early phases, sort of like EP territory time, they just did a lot of covers, a lot of metal and well known rock covers and put their own spin on it. But then they started to evolve their own sound. Oh my God. They're amazing. They're so good. So they've had an interesting sort of build up with their careers. So in 2018, they released an album called Ignition, which has got some amazing tracks on it. It's even got Buckethead on it. So Buckethead, if you don't know, was one of the guitarists of Guns N' Roses for quite a long time. So even the start point, they were pulling in huge acts that wanted to work with them.
Wow.
Um, in 2021, they released two albums. They released Guayamica plus A, and a little bit later on, Animetica plus P. And that is actually an anime soundtrack. So they got heavily involved with writing anime soundtracks for people.
Mm.
Um, and they are really well known for it in Japan. I mean, that is one of the things. And I suppose it fits quite well with high octane, fast paced type of stuff. Then in 2023, they released an album called Decide, and they followed that up in early 2024 with a Live in Tokyo album called Decision. If you get chance, listen to that Live in Tokyo album. It is absolutely flawless, and they've got new music coming out soon. So definitely one to have a listen to if you like more competent, sort of technical guitar playing, but actually easily listenable to anybody else as well.
That's great. Have you added songs from these two artists on our K Rock Cast Loves playlist on Spotify?
Yes, you have got one of the latest tracks
Yay.
on there from FT Islands, and also one of the latest tracks from Asterism on there as well.
Yay, that's great. And listeners, just another kind of plug for on Spotify, all of these amazing artists that Kelly brings in each episode. She compiles some of their best songs on a Spotify playlist called K Rock Cast Loves. So if you haven't subscribed to that playlist, definitely check that out on Spotify. Thanks, Kelly. All right, let's go into our deep dive, listeners. We are going back into the World album. We're going to wrap it up with the last tracks, and we're going to start with Tomorrow, which is track number 4 on the album. Composed and arranged by The Rose, vocals Kim Woo Sung, Park Do Joon, background vocals The Rose, drums Lee Ha Jun, bass Lee Tae Kyum, acoustic guitar Park Do Joon, keyboard Park Do Joon, percussion Park Do Joon, sound design Park Do Joon, drum and bass recorded by Yi Chang Sun at Prelude Studio, drum and bass edited by Park Do Joon at Windfall Studio, Guitar recorded and edited by Park Do-joon, vocals recorded and edited by Park Do-joon, and mixed by Park Do-joon, all at Windfall Studio. And again, leaning into Mike Marsh for the mastering at the Exchange. So, just like we said in part one, Kelly, that Park Do-joon's name is the one we are going to say the most in the credits on all of these songs. All right, Kelly, break down the instrumentation and the melody for us on Tomorrow.
So it's an F sharp and it is 102 beats per minute. Now, people are listening to this and going, oh, it's a country song and it reminds you of country. But actually, it lends into bluegrass and it's also
Yeah,
slightly skiffle as well. So it's got a skiffle board sound in there too.
I agree with you. I keep hearing, I mean, I don't know, maybe country means something different in different parts of the world. As an American, when I hear country, that's not this. This is not country music to me.
No,
This is
no.
bluegrass folk music.
Yeah,
And
this is
so I it's
it's
been, like,
bluegrass.
very odd that even in their press releases, like, they're describing this sound as country where I'm like, unless that means something different in different parts of the world, to me as an American music listener, that's not what country
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean traditionally you would probably refer to it everywhere else in the world as folk.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it would be. But you'll notice because obviously I've said it's got this skiffle sound to it as well, and that's why the drums that are on there are also played with brushes because it gives it that very dry
Oh,
sound. Instead of
I
it being a
love
hit,
that
you get
sound.
a dry sound with it as well.
Yeah.
Now I've said this before, and I said this as soon as we heard the clip. This reminds me so much of Frank Turner. It's not even funny.
Yes.
It
Now, this
really,
is this could be a question, in one of the Q&As, maybe along the rest of the tour, I could try to ask because they've been saying the artists that have been influences, and they've mentioned U2, and they've mentioned Coldplay, and they've mentioned the Beatles and Oasis. They've never mentioned Frank Turner, but yet we surmised in the Spoiler King episode this whole connection to Frank Turner because of this sound, but also the whole concept of the name photosynthesis.
yeah.
And
I
they've
mean,
never mentioned it.
it might literally just be a weird coincidence. It could be a
I don't
very weird
know.
coincidence, but it has got so for people who don't know, Frank Turner is a British artist who originally started out in hardcore bands. And then when he left that sort of hardcore scene, he decided he was just going to pick up his acoustic guitar and start writing what is essentially folk protest songs. And
Mhm.
this is kind of what this is.
It is, yeah.
And he's got a really upbeat way of doing it. And it's fantastic. I mean, I saw him earlier on this year, and I mean, the man is brilliant. I mean, he literally played a set of 30 songs. He just kept going and going and going. And it was like, this is amazing. I absolutely love this. And everybody was there and everybody was singing along. And it's got that similar chantability to it. It's got that same sort of warmth, repetitiveness, and everything else. Um, it's really beautifully constructed. But again, it's not a traditionally a difficult song on the
Mhm.
outside. But actually, when you
Mhm.
start looking at everything else that's involved internally with this, it then becomes a very different beast entirely.
Now what do you mean by that? Tell us explain that a little bit
So
more.
when you look at it at the surface and you just go, oh, it's a guitar, and it's a very
Mhm.
chanty verse and a chorus, and then you've just got this lovely guitar melody that plops along on the top and everything else. But there are lots and lots of depths and layers in the vocals. So
Mm.
when you
Mhm.
record vocals, I think people just think you actually record one vocal for your main line.
Mhm.
You don't. You record a minimum of three. That's a minimum. I would dare to say on some of this, especially some of the choral bits, because there's lots of like nice supporting choral sounds underneath, like oohs and ahs and bits and pieces like that. Some of those have probably been recorded 10, 15 times and bounced down to create this really wide spectrum sound. And
Wow.
and there's a lot going on in this very simple song.
So does that kind of highlight Dojun's talents in his sound design as well as mixing?
Yes. Again, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Again, just
As as
I
I
I
as I have said to you, if we ever get the chance to sit with any of the guys and talk to them, I want to sit and
yeah.
talk to Leo because I want to pick that brain. I really do.
Oh
Just
my
want to
goodness.
know. Honestly, I
Mhm.
just want to know all the tricks and what
Mhm.
he and just
Yeah.
how his brain works because it amazes me how much he
Yeah.
actually does and how much is taken for granted.
Yeah.
Literally.
I definitely think doing this podcast and the level of depth I have gone into their melodies and their instrumentation through our deep dives, I have come away with such a newfound appreciation for the talent he brings to the band that
Yeah.
I didn't really see at a surface level when I just was listening to their music. I love the beginning with that rim shot and Dojun the whisper counting. Um, I
Yes.
I thought that was kind of a creative way to start. I think this we needed this song at this point in the album in terms of its upbeat tempo because
Yeah.
we've been, so heavy. It's so heavy in the first 3 songs, and now we come back with this, like, upbeat tempo. I think it's nice to move I into this more, like, positive,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
upbeat
Exactly.
tone.
And again, though, Rimshot and this sort of whispered counting, Bluegrass 101. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the acoustic guitar melody is so lovely in this song, and it just brings this conjures a feeling of emotion of happiness.
Yeah.
Even though
I
we're gonna talk about the lyrics here in a minute, I think the lyrics have some contrast, but just the melody itself, I
I
feel like I want to dance.
I think that melody though was written on a piano.
Oh, why do you think that?
It's just the run of it. In my
Hmm.
head, I can hear it initially being run on a piano instead of on a guitar. And I think
Mhm.
that's what it was. And if you because it lends more also to the vocal melody as well, which takes a
Mhm.
higher rung up than the guitar melody. It follows a very similar pattern. But yeah, I hear a piano there, so I think that's where the initial spark came from.
That's interesting. I wanna kinda highlight something that I wanna see if you agree with this or not. Maybe my perception isn't accurate, but I feel like in all of not all of the songs, okay, a lot of the songs on World, I'm noticing more harmony
Yes.
happening with vocals, where if I'm reflecting on all of our conversations up to this point on their body of work, and again, we haven't done Heal yet, and we haven't done Duel, but I don't feel like they had done much harmonizing. Now, Childhood has some beautiful
Mhm.
harmonies, but normally they don't harmonize, but I feel like I'm hearing that more,
Yeah.
because I love some of the oohs and those background vocals in this one that creates more of a harmony. Do you agree with my perception on that, or am I, like, completely making that up and that's not
No,
accurate in
I
your
agree with you. I think there's definitely more harmonies on there, but I think a lot of the harmonies that are in there are more like instrumentation because there isn't a lot to
Mm.
hide behind in an acoustic track.
That's true, that's a good point.
So you need
Mm.
it as that extra layer to fill it up and make
Mm.
the sound bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because otherwise you might literally well just be busking in Hongdae, to be perfectly honest. You
I mean,
do need
I
that fuller sound.
I would like them to do more with harmonizing their voices because I think they don't utilize enough the fact that they literally have 4 people who
Yeah.
have beautiful voices,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they always lean into Usang and Dojun, but,
Yeah.
like,
But you have
again, I know I my mantra is more Hajun vocals, but, like, lean into some of the harmonizing that Taegyum's voice and Hajun's voice, I think, could bring.
It is there, and I have noticed though that when they play live and there are harmonising and backing vocal lines in there, the guys' vocals who are doing the harmonising when it's live are sat
Yeah.
quite far back in the mix. And I've always kind of wondered
Yeah.
about that. I've never quite understood why they're not actually sort of boosted a little bit more. Because normally when you hide stuff in the mix, it's because it doesn't sound great. But we know the guys sound great, um,
Right.
so we know that's not an issue. I mean, there are certain members of my band that I may want to hide in the mix when we do it live, but I'm not saying anything.
We won't call them out in Spectral.
There is one member that may be hid in the mix.
No, I agree with you talking about their live performances. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. I would like to see them maybe explore that more because I think these harmonies that are on this World album are so lovely and they add such rich depth.
You have to be careful
Um,
with harmonies, though. So harmonies can be make or break, and it depends on the song as well. So if you're sort of going for that pop push thing, I mean, look at any of the early Beatles stuff. Beatles used to love a really big harmony on all of their hooks. So like She Loves Me and all of that type of stuff and Help, they all had these really great harmonies and they worked as this huge pop hook that like pulled people in. Whereas if you're going for something that's slightly more, I can't use the term aggressive because that makes it sound like they're a much heavier band than they actually are. But something that's got a bit more power in it, you have to be very careful with how you do harmonies. And harmonies then become more about actually incorporating power behind something and sort of definition behind something instead of creating a warm wall of sound. So you have to be very clever with how you do it,
mhm. Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I also love this inclusion of this trumpet sound that Dojun did using his mouth and not a synth.
Literally the thing that all kids do.
Like,
All
this
kids
man
do
is
this.
so creative.
I love that. I think it's hilarious.
Hilarious. This is a song, Kelly, I would have loved to have heard the instrumental version.
There's a lot of their stuff that I would love to hear, just the instrumentation.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you add vocals, and this sounds terrible as a vocalist, I should not be doing myself out of a band. But when you add vocals, it's just sort of like adding, all the lights and the trimmings and the frosting
Yeah.
and all of that type of thing. And a lot of the time, actually, the real taste of the cake's inside and it's not the frosting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of forget that. So there's things that get lost in the frequency of the voice that you're listening to as the lead thing. When you listen to somebody who's singing, you automatically will always pick up on the voice because that's our natural instrument. Um,
Right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then you pick up on things that then sound like the voice. So that's when your ear will go to the guitar and so on
Mhm.
and so forth. So it might be on the 29th listen and you suddenly go, hold on a minute, there's a wolf howl in the middle of that.
Right, I know,
Yeah.
and I think again, like, through this podcast, I've learned so much, like, as an average fan, just listener of music, I just didn't listen for those things. I didn't
No.
appreciate the depth in the instrumentation until, exploring these songs together with you and learning so much too of how you describe music and have such more of a respect for the musicianship and
Mm.
the melody writing than I ever did before because I was just a person that focused on lyrics and the vocal sound. I never
Yeah.
really appreciated the instrumentation part. So yeah, I would have
Mm.
loved that. Let's go into the lyrics for tomorrow. So this is kind of interesting. This is my take on this, Kelly. I can't wait to hear what you think. I think this song is interesting because to me, the first set of lyrics are very grim. And it's funny because it's set to this positive, more upbeat like melody, but they basically talk about what will happen to us if we don't change. Tomorrow our sun will kiss the ground, which Sammy has said means the world ends, basically. Melting away these twisted lies, leave nothing but ashes, chasing gold while hearts are being sold. The greedy ones and the other ones without hesitation. So it's like starting off with this really grim picture, but yet to me, there's a change and a shift in the tone of this and in the lyrics throughout to then becoming more positive by the end of kind of saying, but tomorrow will be okay. Don't worry too much. Love is the way, just like dance to the music. So I thought that was really interesting about this song. What's your overall take on the lyrics?
I think he'd watched Oppenheimer, to be honest.
Yeah, right. Right.
I mean, one of the things that was actually said about the atom bomb dropping was it kissed the sky,
Oh.
and obviously, and then we've got melting away, and all. Not to make this grim, folks, but if you know anything about nuclear history and nuclear bombs, this is what happens. Um, but yeah, I mean, I read that first bit, and I literally the first time I saw it, it was just like, "Well, you sat watching Oppenheimer by any chance when you wrote this?" But
Yeah.
yeah, it is. It's a declaration of where we are in the world at the moment and the catastrophes that could very easily land on us at any time. It is all about greed and avarice and everything else that goes along with it. And but we do have to look to the brighter side of life. And now I've got
Mhm.
Monty Python, always look on the bright side of life, going through my head. There we go. I'll let that one pass.
Yeah.
Um, but it is that reminder that the future is what we make it. And I think that is
Yeah.
generally what the whole gist of this song is. It's the future is what we make it.
The sun will kiss the ground, so we should
Mm-hmm.
be happy. We should not sell
Mm-hmm.
our souls. And like, but not sell. When I say sell, like chasing gold, like selling your soul, it doesn't mean like sell your soul to the devil. Like it could mean that. But what I'm saying is,
Mm-hmm.
don't give up what you love for
Mm-hmm.
for for others. For others, you know what I mean? Like that's what it means. Like don't give up your
Mm-hmm.
beliefs because of the
Yeah.
general belief that people push and the media pushes. You know, like we don't need to follow every time
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because we're all so different. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And we are all
Yeah.
right in a sense. Nobody is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just be happy and let's be satisfied at what this life will bring us and this experience will bring us.
Mm-hmm.
Then in the second verse, it kind of tells us to let go of everything, and the heartaches. In one of the station heads that the Rose did prior to the release of World, Sammy talked about this song. And, he says not to give up on what you believe because of a message that might be
Yeah.
being pushed to you, or kind of what you hear around you, to live your life to the fullest, kind of basically saying like, even if the world would end tomorrow, we'll be okay, right?
Yeah.
I kind of like in this song the creativity of starting with the grim reality of what's the ugliness of the world right now, and if we don't change our ways, this is what will happen, but yet shifting to then more this positive message of, like you just said, there is hope for change.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I think also it's like some things are just out of our control.
Yeah.
There's some things that we as individuals maybe can't change, and so don't
Hugh,
let the heaviness kill you or weigh on you too
yeah.
much.
I mean, if anybody reads the history out there, and I do quite like reading history. I mean, we've always just been this really shitty animal. Is the only way to
Mhm.
describe us.
Yeah.
There's always been this sort of 10% that have tried to oppress everybody else and control everybody else. And we've always been a few minutes to midnight on the doomsday clock. It's obviously got
Yeah.
worse recently, since the 40s and 50s and 60s with the advent of nuclear bombs and things like that. I mean, it's slightly different in medieval times. I mean, because your weapon of mass destruction was a stick with a pike on the end of it. You know, it was going to hurt and you were probably going to end up dead, but it'd have taken a lot more time to annihilate an entire group of people. But we've always just been this atrocious creature, and I think it's a real nice reminder that actually, as a human race, we're not all bad. The mass majority of people are genuinely beautiful, beautiful souls made of beautiful things that only want the best for the world. It's just the fact that a lot of the warmongers and the people who think they should be in charge, who end up being in charge, are generally just really loud and they get their
Yeah.
word across and oppress everybody else. But yeah, tomorrow will be okay. Whether that, and as I've said to you, I think a lot of this album is like internal, external. So I think
Yeah.
we've got the bigger picture of like, this is the state of the world. But actually, I think, again, going back to sort of Sammy's concept of not allowing somebody to define you and create
Yeah.
boundaries and borders, that then becomes an internal thing as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, even if you are going through whatever shit it may be, you know, the end of the world or something personal, tomorrow will be okay. It will get better.
Yeah.
This is Editor Kel. Apparently, Sammy is in fact the emo goth I always thought he was, and Mr. Sunshine himself stepped in to save the day.
Tomorrow is that the actual lyrics for the chorus was much darker. Right now it's like very hopeful, saying like tomorrow will be okay, everything will be alright, hope for a better day. But you know how I start singing the first verse with tomorrow the sun will kiss the ground, meaning like the sun kissed the ground, you get it? Like, what would happen then? You would just end the So yeah, it was supposed to be a very dark song. I wrote the chorus, and then Leo was like, "Stop this!" Yeah, you have to make it easy and happier. And then that's why we wrote that.
So it's a perfect balance, actually. Like, you know, the good and bad, and like all the deep and shallow everything.
So many of the themes in the lyrics of these songs are so heavy, and I think as we talked in part 1, you know, every one of those songs had a very like heavy, I think O started to have more of a positive as well outlook, right? Leaning into the children as our
Yeah.
future. Where again, I think we just kind of, as the listener going through this journey on this album, at this point in the album, we're about halfway through, we needed some positivity. We needed a little bit of uplifting. So you're not sitting so heavy
Yeah.
in all of these other themes. And so I think the placement of this song, you know, about halfway through and still starting with the grim reality, he's not trying to sugarcoat things, but also turning it, you know, into not letting that destroy you,
Yeah.
and knowing that, you know, love is the way, music is the way, dance is the way. I just really liked that message at this point in the album. I think it was great. We need
It's
it
we
because
do, and it's
we're
a
not
lyrical.
done with the heaviness.
No, and it's a lyrical key change. And I think
Mhm.
that's the nice thing about it. If you look at an album as an entirety, an album makes a song, which is why you should always listen to an album from start to finish and not just cherry pick
Mhm.
songs, because that tells a story in
Yeah.
itself. And it's one of the
Yeah.
reasons you sit and rattle your brains about what order stuff should go in and why it goes in that order and why it should make sense this way. And that's why this is the you've had the free fall of the roller coaster with all the doom, gloom,
Mhm.
and destruction beforehand, and now we're on the nice little tick uphill before we go into the free fall of the rest of the roller coaster.
Yeah, I love that. And I think Sammy said last year when he was promoting his 4444 album, he had this great comment in a live stream about how so many artists don't think of albums as bodies of work anymore. And he
I
comes
hate
from
that.
that era where
Yeah,
he did always listen to an album from
yeah,
start to finish because an album tells a story. And so I agree with you. I think this album, now breaking it down and talking through it, you can see the story country. And just as you said, we are now at the top of that and we're getting ready to get heavy again.
Yeah.
So why don't you take us into track 5, Nevermind, Kelly?
Right. So, as you can imagine, it is pretty much the same as we're going to have for everything else. So, I'm just going to clump this together. So,
I know. we keep getting tired. Is Park Do-joon's name the drinking game in these 2
I'm starting to
episodes?
feel like it is. I feel like I need to come up with like cute nicknames for them all as we go along.
I know,
Right,
right?
just to mix it up a little bit. Composed and arranged by The Rose. Vocals by Sammy and Leo. Backing vocals by The Rose. Drums by Dylan. Bass by Jeff. There we go. I've mixed it up a bit. I thought we'd have English
Yeah.
names for a change. All right, so electric guitar and acoustic guitar, keyboard and accordion and percussion and synthesizer, all by Leo.
Accordion. How
Accordion.
fun.
Accordion, which isn't what you'd really expect in here, but it does make sense.
So can I ask this question?
Yeah.
Because of the way it's been written out in terms of like the credits, does this literally mean it was the actual instrument and not a synthesized sound
Yes.
of an accordion?
Yes.
So can we like, am I just getting this mental picture of him going on something like, I think I need an accordion. Like, let me go get one.
I don't think it's a traditional umpar band accordion.
Oh my God, that's what I had in my mind.
I don't think it's that. I think it might be a mouth accordion. I might be very wrong with that.
Okay. Oh man, I was like, I'm thinking in the Windfall office, he's like, Clive, I need to put in a request, a purchase order of an accordion. It's like Oompa Loompa, like polka band accordion.
So one of the reasons I think it could be a mouth accordion is when you actually listen to it in the song, it doesn't have that push and pull compression sound that you get with a traditional accordion. I might be very wrong on that. And it'd be
That
nice to
makes
see
sense.
some footage. Yeah, it'd be nice to see some footage from the studio to actually work this out. But I think I remember seeing him with a mouth accordion.
Now that you say that, I'm getting this mental picture that I feel like I've seen it too, but I'm not really remembering what. Well, Dojun, if you're listening to this episode, drop us an email, www.krock.cast@gmail.com. Tell us if we're right or wrong.
I'd
Okay,
love to know
back to you,
because it's
Kelly.
driving me ever so slightly mad. Right, so let's start again. Sound design done by Leo. Drum and basses were recorded again by Lee Chang-sung at Prelude Studio. And then, right, this bloke at Windfall Studio did all of this stuff. Right, you ready for it? Guitar recorded and edited. Vocal recorded and edited. Percussion recorded and edited. And mixed by Leo at Windfall Studio. And then, of course, it was mastered again by Mike Marsh at The Exchange, who, may I just add, is one of the best guys for mastering.
Ooh, nice.
The Exchange
job,
is
Rose.
a fantastic, fantastic company. And I must admit, when we were looking who we were going to use, they were on our list and Mike Marsh was on it.
Nice.
So yeah, we know he's one of the good ones. Right. So then I'll just do a little bit of the instrumentation and melody analysis on here. So it's in G major and it's 79 beats per minute. So it's a slow one, really. Now, I have a slight issue with this song. Only ever such a slight issue. And I'm going to bring it up now instead of bringing it up later on. This is very reminiscent of a song by a certain band from Manchester who are currently touring the UK in very, very, very large stadiums to a lot of drunk football fans. Sorry, Oasis fans. But it's true. It's very reminiscent of Champagne Supernova to the point where I think when we go into the bridge, there is a section where you can actually sing the bridge and the chorus over the top of Champagne Supernova. But there's also similarities as well with Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds by the Beatles. Let me just put this out here. If Oasis weren't, how should I put this politely about Oasis? At some point, I've got to go back into Manchester at some point because it's not that far away from where I live.
You got to be careful of our Manchester.
Yeah. I have contacts and friends in Manchester that I have to go and see. I don't want to be skinned alive. But the only reason Oasis have got the career that they have got is basically because they've heavily relied and utilised the sound of the Beatles, shall we say. I'm quite sure Noel Gallagher would heavily agree with that. I'm not so sure Liam would agree with that. But so I mean, that's why you get that feeling of both songs in there, because actually one is a repetition of the other, and then this one has picked up on what is either one of these two, so that's why there's a familiarity with it.
Right.
But actually, as songs, do you know what? They're both excellent fucking songs, to be perfectly honest. You just have to be careful, as I've said before, with copyright.
Ajun said in the station head that they were very inspired by Coldplay, Oasis, and the Beatles in this melody, to which I thought it was interesting. Sammy kind of admitted he wasn't very familiar with Oasis's discography. Hajun seemed very familiar with Oasis's discography. But then after the release of World, Sammy learned that Oasis has an album called Nevermind. And so he thought it was kind of cool that they leaned into that Oasis sound. And then Oasis has an album called Nevermind. He said that was a complete coincidence. I think when we first heard this snippet in Sammy's March 27th live stream, we both felt like this was, I think we referred to it as the Oasis song.
It's like, it's the Oasis track.
Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, I really like the tone of the electric guitar. To me, it has a higher pitch sound. Is something about it sounds a little bit different? Is there anything different to your ear about the electric guitar in this song?
It will have gone through several pedals to get that sound. I'm not 100% sure what delays and things like that they've put on it, but there's definitely a delay, and there's a couple of other bits and pieces that they will have used. Not a guitarist, so I can't tell you by ear exactly what it is they've used to create that sound. But there's fuzz and bits and pieces like that on there. Now, please excuse this. This is a legitimate pedal I am going to mention now. This is not sus content by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, I can't wait.
This is genuinely what this pedal is called. I think they may have used a big muff.
Oh my God. Stop it.
It's true. Look it up, woman. It's true. There is a pedal called a big muff, and actually, I think that's possibly what they've used, or they've used some form of pedal that actually replicates that as well.
Hysterical.
Yeah, because generally speaking, they tend to use station pedals where it's all in one, and an overdrive pedal as a separate thing. Some guitarists you'll see, and they'll have like 30 pedals all over the floor, which was like my friend Bear, bless him. He literally had like 30 pedals. He had a pedal board that used to take in the back of my car when we did gigs.
I remember you mentioning in a previous episode, he looked like he was tap dancing.
He did used to look like he was tap dancing, literally going between all the pedals as he was playing. But yeah, I think they possibly used a big muff on this.
Well, I just think, again, I think what I appreciate with this song is some of the creative sounds, whether it's that tone of the electric guitar that I think sounds different, or this accordion, this mouth accordion that he included. Just really creative in some of the instrumentation.
That all goes back to our little scientist.
Love this like new nickname that Sammy started on him. I don't think he had referred to him as a scientist prior to kind of this tour, has he?
No, but he is.
This new little nickname.
I think it's perfect for him.
It's like perfect, especially as we've said, this sound design, this mixing that he's explored in his talents for this album. Yeah, I love it. He is our little scientist.
But this then goes back to the fact it could be Pinky and the Brain again, couldn't it?
Oh God, those two. Those two. I think what's I like too is that the full melody doesn't really come in until the start of the second verse.
Yes.
Then it continues and it builds to this swell to me through like the second chorus to the bridge. And I love the bridge. on
Yeah,
this
and
song.
this is when it gets very Oasis, and it is that build because that is a traditional trope of the Beatles. They will create this swell as you get about three-quarters of the way through a track, and they always did it. And you get this beautiful swell, and then you get the fall away, and yeah, and that's what it is, which is why you can start singing Champagne Supernova over that bit, but we won't get into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to what we said in part one. I think that is the critique, if we're going to call it a critique of
Yes.
this album. I think there are times when, again, that inspiration might be a little bit to where when you can, to me, sing someone else's lyrics over your
Yeah,
melody,
yeah,
you might have leaned a little too heavily
yeah,
into that inspiration.
yeah.
And this is that song to me from a melody standpoint.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get me
Um,
wrong, I love this. I
I
absolutely
love
love
this too. Right.
Yeah,
I think it's not necessarily saying we don't love the song, but I think just being, again, like we said in part one, just being honest.
yeah.
Um, I think we're always very honest about their music, the good and the reality.
As people may have heard.
Yes. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat things and think that everything, they have, what, rainbows coming out their asses or something, like they poop
Hey,
rainbows or whatever.
even Beethoven had bad days.
I mean, why I can wax lyrical about Usung's lyrics, but he's got some shitty lyrics too. I
Oh, he
mean,
does. He
swimming like
does.
a hummingbird, which I still kind of say I don't think he actually wrote that lyric. But anyway, like, wait till we
But
get
you
to his genre album. There are some lyrics on some of those songs that I hate. I feel very strongly about. So I
Oh,
can't wait
dear.
till we do that deep dive. But
Well, at least
anyway,
he's hit his stride now.
he's hit his stride now, thank God. Um, the one other piece in the melody, and then let's dig into the lyrics. They do this a lot in their songs, and I think you'll say this probably as a songwriter. This is common, I'm sure, structure of most songs is they tend to, at the end of the song, drop the melody and kind
Yes.
of end it with either like this, it ends with that acoustic guitar and then just Sammy's vocals. I feel like they do that technique a lot in their songwriting. I
Yeah.
like it, but that's how this song ends, with just those vocals and that
I
acoustic
mean,
guitar.
I do it as well, to be honest. It's to hammer home the actual
Mhm.
message of the song. That's what it is. It's just the final
Mhm.
sort of dink.
I like it. All right, let's dig into the lyrics. Why don't we start with you on this one? Give us your kind of assessment on the lyrics of this.
Do I have to?
Ooh, what does that mean?
Do I have to?
Is it because it's so heavy? Are you struggling with kinda where to start? Like we did with Nebula. I remember when we were going with Nebula, it was like, where do we even begin?
Yeah. I don't think it's quite as heavy as Nebula, to be honest.
I don't think it's quite as heavy. This is what I wrote. The first thought I put in my notes to me is, and I like how you said this in a past episode. If we think of their writing as like a character,
Mm,
they're like taking us on like a journey. To me, this picks up with the message in Nebula a little
yes.
bit, where there's this back and forth in this song between apathy and numbness
Yeah.
and real vulnerability. And he starts with apathy. I don't care about what you say, about what you do. I don't care. I'm careless. Whatever I say, whatever I do, never mind. To me, as well, there's like, then he says, the world keeps moving on. What's left if you are right? Who's right if you are left behind? That's a good line. We talk about
Mm,
some of these really strong lyrics. What's left if you are right? Who's right if you are left behind? The wordplay he's doing there in terms of political, what's happening in politics across the world with the left and the right,
mm,
liberal, conservative, whatever it's called in different countries. Um, and then just who's right if you're left behind, like the right and wrong, right? Like morality. I think
Mhm.
that wordplay was so creative.
Yeah, it is. I find a lot of it very clever and very well done. To me, it's one of those sort of whiny conversations in your head. That's how it
Yeah,
feels to me.
I can
And it's
kind of
that thing.
see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those sort of whiny conversations where you're sort of like, "Oh, so this is this and this is that," and then you just go, "Oh, well, never mind, it doesn't matter."
You know, I like what you're saying. I think of back to when he wrote Lonely. Now that was an
Yeah,
all Korean song, but one of the things we said in Lonely was it was a meandering of his thoughts
yeah,
and it was blunt. And this
yes.
song is blunt.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Like
it is.
there's a level of bluntness where it's just like I don't care, you know, never mind. His lyrics aren't long prose
No, and it
of
doesn't need
description of
no,
imagery like he
no,
created in
and
Nebula,
it doesn't
right?
need to
There's
be in this. It doesn't need to be long, languishing prose. It doesn't need
right.
to be. It's literally it's a
Yeah.
blunt conversation, and it feels
Yeah.
very much like it's this sort of oh well, if it's this and it's this and it's this, oh well, there's nothing I can do about it.
Do
Honestly,
about it.
never mind.
Honestly, never mind.
It's water off a duck's
Yeah.
back. It's that type of thing, and to me, it kind of harks again, world and internal again. I
Mhm.
think it can be taken on 2 points, this, and there
Yeah.
is a sort of feeling of it's a fight to sort of put it behind you. That's kind of what it feels
Yeah.
like. It's that
Yeah.
closing of the door.
I agree with you. I think there's kind of two different ways you can interpret that. The first like stanza where he says, "Don't care about what you say, about what you do. I don't care. I'm careless.
Oh,
Whatever I say, whatever
he's
I do."
obsessed with being careless though, isn't he?
So there's like two ways you can interpret that. You're careless, meaning I don't care, I don't have worry,
Yes.
or I'm careless, as in you are not kind or you're not caring
Yes.
about like whatever I say, whatever I do. So I can feel like there's like a play on words in there
There
where
is.
you can see
Yeah.
it as like I don't give a fuck what's happening, but or also like I maybe was mean or I was like,
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
whatever I say, whatever I do, it must be wrong,
Yeah.
like so
Yeah.
never mind. So fuck it.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
win, you know.
Exactly.
I think
Which
there's that dichotomy there.
yeah, which again harks back to a lot of his songwriting.
So I like what you said. To me, I agree. There's like this theme of you want to fight, but then you realize there's nothing you as one person can do to change things.
Yeah.
So never mind. But to me, towards the end of the song, the tone changes. I called out to the stars, hoping you'll hear my heart. Honestly, never mind. I saw you in the sky, surrender to the light. Like to me, that's that harking back to Nebula.
Yes.
And I think to me, he's saying like, he's praying, he's wishing,
He's manifesting.
and I think I remember he said this in a live stream once. He presents himself so much on the outside, like he doesn't give a shit.
Mhm.
And to me, that is his defense mechanism.
Mhm.
He cares about things so deeply. And I feel like this entire song is like personified
Oh,
of
yeah.
this like I don't care, I don't give a fuck, never mind, but the reality is he cares so deeply,
Yes.
and that's his just defense mechanism to present
Yeah.
it like he
Yeah.
doesn't care.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not saying anything about that whatsoever at all.
I was digging into the lyrics, I felt that connection back to kind of Nebula. And then I feel like it's this journey we're on with him now where we're going to go in to the next track and he's going to go a little deeper, I think, into his depression and despair.
This is Editor Kel. As you are probably aware, we can waffle for Britain and the States combined. So to stop this being a 4-hour podcast, we'll cover Slowly and Ticket to the Sky in the next episode.
Well, let's move on to our Would You Rather. I have got, I've got a funny Would You Rather this time because I was evil last time. I was really evil with the lesser of two evils. I think that was rough.
Okay.
So, Kelly, would you rather eat an entire 5-course meal that has been prepared by Hajun? Who can we go back to photosynthesis episode 8 where he was the one cooking and like, you know, I use air quotes, listeners, cooking, because I don't think this man knows his way around even knowing what a pot is in a kitchen, let alone like cooking anything. So he has to cook you an entire 5-course meal that might be editable, maybe, or let Dojun give you a new haircut, but he's blindfolded.
And did you say this was a funny one? Did you say this is a funny one?
It's not evil, right? Isn't this funny? Not evil?
No. 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 Oh God.
Why do I get this mental picture of Dojun like talking through this, right? Because he's so extra and he'd be like, oh, let me see. I can feel your hair over here. Yep, let's take a big cut. Oop, okay, yeah. Oh, you know what, Kelly? Yeah, we'll get you over here. Yep, we'll cut a little bit off here. Oh, I think that's even. Let me feel it. Yeah, I think that's even. Can't you just see him like...
So, right. I have had the misfortune as a child, and there is a photograph of this somewhere, of my grandma giving me a haircut. And to say it looked like I'd had a pudding basin put over my head. This was the very first time as a 5-year-old I heard my mother swear. Oh my God. That woman came out with every swear word I'd ever heard. Let's just say I was taken to the hairdresser's very, very quickly for an emergency haircut. And it was very, very short for quite a while. So, haircuts, probably not a good thing around me. So, I don't really want to experience a pudding bowl haircut again if I can avoid it.
I feel like he would be like just chopping random, like you end up with a bald patch or something.
That's the thing. I don't think it'd be like feathered lengths. It wouldn't be like really cool, like 1970s wolf cut or anything like that. That ain't happening, is it? No. You are literally going to have a bald spot on your head, one piece of hair that's longer than all the rest, which is probably the bit that's in front of your face.
Oh my
No.
God.
No, let's not go there.
You're gonna take your chances with Hajun, who looks like he can't like even boil water.
Right. So I have clarifying questions.
Of course
with this,
you do.
Because I might decline either. I might decline either. One, whose choice is it what he cooks / prepares?
Okay. You get to... Oh, well, I can't say you're going to pick the menu because then you're going to only pick easy things for him.
Well, no, because you know that I'm not a fussy eater, but there are certain things I don't eat.
Well, it would meet all of your dietary needs.
It would meet my dietary needs. Okay.
Yeah, he's picking the menu. It's got to be 5 courses, so he's got to do some tough things in there too.
Right. Okay.
He's got to cook.
I'm working on the concept then that if I stick to a decent vegetarian diet, I'm not going to get food poisoning.
Oh, because it's probably gonna would be like pasta based, which is like, how can anybody mess up something that's like pasta based or
Quite easily, because there's al dente and then there's not cooked.
yeah, I mean, he might come at you with some like hard pasta that's been boiling for a minute.
Or when pasta goes the other way around and just becomes a gloopy mess.
Oh, I know,
Oh
I
no,
know.
I'd like my Italian food. Don't destroy Italian food.
I mean, do you remember him in the photosynthesis episode 8 when he came in and he was just like, I think they felt sorry for him as the cook because they basically like Taegyum picked like fresh seafood, so he didn't have to like cook anything. He looked like he wouldn't know how to cook at all.
I also don't know whether I could eat 5 courses.
Yeah. Yeah, you
I
got
don't think I
a
could do that. Or is it a tasting menu?
you got a appetizer, you've got a salad course, you've got a main course. What would you have? Then you'd have a dessert course. That's 4. What would be the 5th? I don't know. I'm not bougie
Well,
enough.
for 5 courses, you normally have a fish course in there as well.
Oh, I don't eat fish, but well,
It's what you'd normally have in there. Right, for safety reasons, I am leaning more towards Hajim cooking for me. That's
I
what I'm
am
leaning
too.
more towards because I
Because
don't necessarily think I could get food poisoning unless, of course, I got food poisoning off the salad.
yeah, like I think I would rather deal with food that tastes like crap and endure that than I'm too vain. I don't want a bad haircut from
Well,
Twitch.
I always said that if I ever had all of my hair cut really short, I was going to have a tank girl do. So, I mean, I could possibly end up with. I could probably
think you
rock a
could pull
tank
that
girl
off.
haircut. I think, yeah, I think I could probably pull that off as long as I'm wearing like my knee high Doc Marts and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, Hajuni, you're cooking for 2.
Yeah, Hajun. I'm gonna pick you this time. I think I've never have I picked him in any of the Would You Rathers?
No, which I
I
am amazed about.
I know because I didn't pick him on the drums. I didn't pick him with the directions. Remember in
Yeah,
the 10-hour car ride
yeah, but
arguing?
that's because that's your Kim Delulu, darling, and you
I
just want
didn't
to be
pick
sat in a car for 10 hours with Sam.
I mean, that's true. That's true.
I asked whether or not violence was preferable on both of those, and you wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
So I took matters into my own hands and just thought, you know what, I'm just going to drive because that'll scare him shitless and he'll get out of the car anyway.
When else did I not pick Hajun? He was the one oh, the escape room. I did the
Well,
haunted
that's
house with
understandable.
Dojun over Hajun. So Hajuni. I need to pick him in
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So
I'll deal with
there
his
you,
really bad cooking.
yeah. Well, you're assuming he's a really bad cook.
I don't think he can cook.
I'm not 100% sure after witnessing many of the cooking attempts that have been made on lives, etc., and on certain things that any of them can actually cook. And
Apparently,
that includes Tay, who apparently is meant to know how to cook.
I agree with you. I completely agree. I think these men rely on ordering out a lot.
I think you might be right.
I definitely think so. I don't know if Sammy still does his little soup that like he used to make
Oh
that
no!
is
Hold on. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I have made a terrible mistake. I have made a terrible, terrible error in judgment. I have forgot that Mr. Kim can in fact boil rice with the aid of a rice cooker,
which he does really well apparently, which
which apparently he
can
does
you
really, really well.
I mean, I guess there is a way to not make rice well. So,
Oh,
that is
trust.
a thing.
Oh, yeah. Trust me. I've had rice before that really
Yeah.
shouldn't be even classed as rice.
So, he's a professional rice cooker and he makes a good bland soup that he puts no flavor
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
it's not hard, is it, to create a stock before you actually make your soup?
Talked about I love when he did I got all high on his high horse about, too much salt and all the food. There's that dad
You,
Sammy that
you
comes in
do
there that
not. Oh, right. Okay, a basic stock for a soup. I can't believe I'm now having to do a basic stock for a soup. People, if you need to make a soup, the basic stock for a soup: carrots, celery, onion. A little bit of those, put it in the bottom of the bowl. let it boil. You either take them out, or if you want a really thick soup, you mash it in. There you go, folks. You've heard it for free. That's how you make a basic stock. You don't need to add salt or pepper or anything. Basic stock. There you go. I'll get off my high horse now.
You're on side of Sammy. He's all about not putting any salt in there.
Yeah, I'm not a huge salt person. I do like a lot of pepper, though.
Yeah, I like pepper. I don't know. I think you need a little bit of salt in there, but
Well, that's why you put the celery in.
Oh, celery's disgusting.
Yeah, but you don't even taste it once it's done.
Celery's
Oh,
not really. I don't know that. Yeah, and I
how
don't
can
use it.
do not insult? Do not insult celery. We're going to end up having a veggie war. Do not insult
stand
celery.
celery.
I love some celery.
All right, listeners, tell us what you're going to do. Eat a 5-course meal prepared by Hajun that is probably barely edible. Hopefully, you won't get food poisoning. Or you're going to risk getting a haircut by Dojun, who is blindfolded. Tell us what you would choose. We can't wait to hear. Please rate our podcast and leave us comments about this episode. We love to hear your feedback. Follow us on social media on Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube. We are at KRock_cast.
Click here to subscribe.
Email us at krock.cast@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out our website, www.krockcast.com. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.